This is Roppongi Rocks, and we are in Shibuya, Tokyo, with Raven and Dave Dufort. Let's talk about the new wave of British heavy metal, which isn't very new anymore, but still brilliant.
Yes.
Was this a real thing back in the day? Because it was spread out all over. I mean, you lot were up in Newcastle. Dave, with the bands you were in London. There were bands in Sheffield, Birmingham, etc. Mike, you weren't even born then.
No.
But was this, a ploy, or was it a real scene?
It was a real thing. Dave got us signed up. He got us on membership cards.
Yeah, we became fully fledged members of the new wave of British heavy metal.
Really annoys me,
Oh,
because
what did you
people
say?
think like we all lived on the same street or something,
Yeah.
and we're all members of a club.
Yeah.
It was a time period. It was a time period where a bunch of young kids who loved hard rock, heavy metal, and didn't like punk, and they were getting inundated with other stuff, and they just said, let's play it ourselves.
Yeah, it was kind of like a backlash, because there was bands that we were all into, like Deep Purple and Sabbath and stuff, and then along came punk, and then them guys couldn't get arrested for some reason, and that was the stuff that we loved. So a lot of people who were into that then started their own bands. That's kind of what happened.
It just kind of happened as well, it just appeared.
Yeah, like
didn't it?
overnight,
And you were
yeah.
the British heavy metal.
And then people used to go around saying, no,
Well, those
wow.
bands have been playing for years.
Right.
They all working, paying their dues, working men's clubs and whatever, pubs.
I mean, Malcolm Dome said to me one day, I went for a drink in Malcolm Dome, he was drinking milk at the time.
Oh, it's before you turned into an alcoholic,
that
right?
period, and he suddenly came out with it. He said, new wave of British heavy metal. And I said, what the fuck is that? And he said, that's what's going to be.
Huh?
And it was.
Well,
It happened literally.
It was,
like that. Metal
what,
from
Dave
London.
Lewis, wasn't it? From Sounds. Kind of. Because
No.
it was like him, Malcolm, Jeff,
Malcolm,
all them people.
Jeff Barton, Malcolm Dome, and a couple of others.
yeah.
I can't remember who though.
And was being seen as being part of new wave of British heavy metal, did that help you sell tickets and records, or?
Well, look, a lot of it wasn't really touted outside of Sounds as that. It was just like these bands were all springing up, and there was like an energy in the air about it.
It wasn't. It was a kind of extension from the pub rock bands before,
Yeah, yeah.
wasn't it? Pub
Brinsley,
rock bands,
Schwartz, Dux Deluxe,
the Pirates, and all
the
that kind of
Pirates,
stuff.
all
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. And it kind of went from there, and it mushroomed, literally.
Yeah, these bands took over those gigs,
Yeah.
as it were.
Yeah.
I think the
And,
biggest thing about it was coming from like an independent thing. It was independent record companies. There was heavy metal records, of course, neat records that we were on.
Guardian up in Durham.
The records was awesome. It was run by a guy. He looked like Benny Hill, exactly like Benny Hill. So you can imagine how.
And he had the
Dave
financial sense of half a daily. If
They would, you would say like, he'd say, well, are you coming down to the office, can you pick up a bottle of milk? And then I go and I says, yeah, that's like 20 pence or something. He goes, oh, that's how much a bottle of milk is today? I can't believe it. Oh, I don't seem to have my checkbook with me. And he was always like that. Like he was like a real character,
Fair enough. And do you sense that there's a bit of a revival now? I mean, there's a lot of new bands that sound and look like the old new wave bands, and
Yes.
obviously you are still touring, Maiden's still touring, and a lot of bands are still out there.
Yeah,
we
Saxon's still out there. I mean, the local lads of us. I mean, even Avenger, Blitzkrieg, and Satan, they're still out there playing.
Mike, who we just play with was like a new wave of British heavy metal band. It was
Band from Peru,
from Peru.
Hyena, 20-year-old kids.
Yeah.
Total new wave British heavy metal. It's like, wow.
I've met quite a few young fans over here that are into the new wave of British heavy metal. I'm thinking, what the hell?
Yeah.
These guys, they're 20, 21, 22.
Yeah, they weren't even born.
And they've got all the albums and all the re-releases.
I
And
think sometimes it's from their parents. It's like, I don't like what I hear. What does Dad listen to?
yeah.
Dad rock, eh? And puts it on and goes, I like that. What's that?
Yeah.
And they go down the rabbit hole,
Yeah.
and then it's all over.
Yeah.
Then there's a few bands who are involved in it who don't want anything that never want to be called that they were part of that for some reason. I don't understand why that. Like, it's not a bad thing, so I don't get it. Def Leppard is one of the famous ones. They just don't want to be associated, but they came up like at the same time as we were doing all the stuff,
Yeah, and it's not as if people say it's a genre. Like every band's got a 2 minutes to midnight riff. It's all, and they're not. All the bands. I mean, Angel Witch, Raven, Venom, Saxon, Def Leppard, Iron Maiden, White Spirit, Fist. They were all totally different.
Yeah.
Way different.
That's what made it all special. Every band was connected by their difference.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of rarity, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
That's what made it cool. It was like, oh, they were all, full of energy and they were heavy, but they were all totally different. Some of them were commercial, some of them were heavier, some were like Sabbath, some weren't. It was great.
And then that group of bands went on to influence a group of bands who then became like thrash metal or death metal and all this stuff. They picked pieces of that style and kind of incorporated that in their new style. It was pretty cool how that all kind of evolved, through the years.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's a future for it as well. So,
Yeah, I think so as well, yeah.
very good. Well, thank you
Good
very much.
music never goes out of style.
Indeed. Thank you, Raven. Thank you, Dave Dufort.
Well done.
Stay heavy.